Welcome to the bunker.
Preppers, survivalists, off-gridders, homesteaders, and the like. Welcome to Top's Bunker, a podcast for preppers. Email shtf@topsbunker.com, website topsbunker.com, and the brand new Top's Bunker Podcast YouTube channel. Please check the show notes in your podcast player for a link to help support the show. There you'll find valuable products and gear and extra info on this episode. Also, please visit and join Top's Bunker Facebook group. You'll love the interaction with other preppers and like-minded folks. And don't forget, we're now on YouTube. Look for the Top's Bunker Podcast channel on YouTube or just click the link in the show notes. We'll have tons of content from tutorials to homesteading to product reviews, as well as the podcast episodes themselves. And did I forget to mention, we'll soon be transitioning to a video podcast format, so you can listen to the show and watch the show if that's your thing. Now that the YouTube channel is up and running, we can start doing live streams as well. Lots of great content is on the horizon. I want to thank y'all for joining us. We've got a great show for you. Tonight we're talking about winter starts for your garden. I know, it's January. It's frozen tundra out there. It's below freezing, and in some places like here, it's below zero. I sure as hell don't want to be working in my garden in ski pants and snow boots, hands all numb, frozen boogers in my beard. Hell no. And therein lies the beauty of it. My garden isn't outside under a foot of snow. It's inside, in the warmth of my grow room, a 20 by 15 foot area of space in the basement with shelves and grow lights and seed starting mixes and potting soils and seed trays sitting on top of heating mats. There's a bar height table with a 36 by 36 inch plastic drain pan that we repurposed as a work surface to keep the soil and compost and water from reaching the floor, though it happens anyway. Now don't be trying to picture some pristine, climate-controlled, sciency type of space. No, this is at best a piecemealed and Frankenstein mash of incompatible, interconnected tools of the trade acquired over time and sourced from the cheapest vendors, mostly Amazon and Walmart, and sometimes free. Think dirty garden hose, dumpster diving on the way back from the feed store kind of free. All tossed together and organized into a perfect form of dirty workspace. You, my friends, can and should have something similar set up or about to be set up where you're at. Does it have to be as big as ours? No, it doesn't. It can be smaller, much smaller, probably should be smaller. We found out last season that our grow room is actually not big enough. Remember, our garden is 1,250 square feet. I've lived in apartments that were half that size. And this next season, we're adding another 1,250 square feet. Though I haven't quite figured out exactly how yet, but it's gonna happen. We need the space. But even if you're in a smaller space, like an apartment or a flat, you can and should have a grow room, be it a little corner in the bedroom, or window ledges in the living room, or countertops in the kitchen or bathroom, or all of the above. Now is the time to start, and Buddy's got you covered. He's got a top 10 list all about what we need to do right now in the dead of winter so that our gardens will be lush and plentiful come spring. Now, let's get to it. And so what is your vacation mode? I mean, what is your vacation, first of all?
Well, every day is vacation for me. But no, it seemed like I got in that holiday kind of mode where, you get out of your main routine.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I was still trying to work out and do things, but just my normal daily, I call it a battle rhythm. I have a series of things that happen from the time the alarm clock goes off till, usually till the end of the day. And it's kind of it's not really regimented like crazy, but, I try to do and follow some things and get on some websites and podcasts and do some things. And
I like the way that sounds, a battle rhythm.
Yeah, so it's just a daily, regimen of stuff to do.
Well, I mean, like, Secretary of War Pete Hegseth was saying in that speech to all of his generals and everybody else that he's expecting the start of day for everyone to be PT.
Yeah, yeah, and that's a
That's a little. I mean, I love where he's coming from, but doesn't that seem a little insane, especially for some of the, 50s, 60s, 70-year old? I mean, or are there 70-year-olds and 60-year-olds in the military? I don't know.
yes, definitely 60, maybe some 70, some admirals, maybe some generals, but they should have been doing this their whole career. I mean,
They
I
got very complacent with that kind of stuff.
yeah, I think somewhere in the GWAT, the 20 years we were at the Global War of Terrorism, we our battle rhythm was such that we were fighting that 50-meter war in front of us, and didn't see the next war,
Right.
and kind of got out of the rhythm, and just the PT thing. I try to stay, keep a rhythm of some sort, a PT regimen going, um, during deployments and stuff. I used to call it Operation Prison Big. You're kind of you feel like a prisoner when you're in a fob sometimes. So
Mm.
hitting the gym daily was something I try to do. It's just good for your health, mental health and physical health, and you know, keeps your blood flowing and keeps cortisol levels down and all these things. So, it's just good overall, you know.
I believe my battle rhythm is wrong because I believe it's creating cortisol and fat and laziness. I need to switch it up. I am not saying I'm not active and I don't have tons of jobs to do and I'm not working. What I'm saying is that those tons of jobs that I'm doing and that activity that I'm doing is much harder. I don't. I need more energy. I need more, physical pump to get through it because I have to do the work has to get done. You know.
Well, and we talked about this last podcast, but you look at most farmers out there, and you talked about your dad, or I guess it was your dad. I was talking about my dad, or your grandpa, somebody you've talked about that had,
Right.
what I call, corn fed, cock strong.
Right.
They're just they they might have a belly, they might look like there might be a little overweight, but these guys can go all day long chopping wood, throwing hay bales. They're just because they've been doing it so many years that it's just second nature to them, and it's not really a choice. It's just it has to be done, so they go do it.
Well, like I said before, my battle rhythm is off because, and I'll give you a for instance. I have not eaten yet today, and it's already what almost 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. It's getting coming to the evening.
Yeah.
All I've had today is coffee.
Wow.
That's not good, man. That's bad. I haven't been hungry. I've been in the studio nonstop from this early this morning until right now. I'm still working on the post production on the podcast that's being released tonight.
Yeah, it's
If I was to like go out and work right now for an hour or whatever, let's say, take a break and go out and work, I would have zero energy to do it.
Well, the worst thing that happened to my mental health, and just for me in general, was when I got a desk job. And it was time. In your military career, sometime, especially you start getting up in rank, you got more paperwork. So I ended up in an office, and if I didn't get up and walk away sometimes I just, like in New York, I just go out for a walk. I grab t-shirts and some business cards, and go ahead and start talking to
I've
people.
seen people in office buildings get up out of the chair and just go walk up and down the stairs for a little bit.
Yeah, walk the stairs. See that at hospitals sometimes, but I would have to get out and go. And then when I was moved to an armory, then I was you have gyms and stuff in your armory, or there's always something you can work out with. So whether it's there's PT going on all the time. So I would get up and say, okay, at 2 o'clock, from 2 to 3 is when I go, and I go get some workout, just anything. I might go in there and just get on the bike and read, or a treadmill, and watch the news, get in there and pump some iron, whatever it may be. But it's just something that I had to put into the battle rhythm for the day. And it was on, I had a little calendar right there, desktop calendar, and it's written in there for the day. 2 o'clock, go work out. highlighted. And so, as far as not eating, I used to do that all the time. It would be 8 o'clock at night before I'd eat, just because I felt like and my excuse was I'm too busy. I have to actually make myself eat now. And a lot of times I'm not hungry. But after about 2 weeks of making myself eat, and I'm trying to get in like at least 4 meals a day, light, smaller meals. Take your plate, half protein, half carbs, and then take your carbs and take that in half and do, green leafy carbs and then starchy carbs. And I do 4 of those a day, and then a shake in the morning and at night. First meal of the day is a shake after I work out, and I try to fast, the intermittent fasting we've talked about before. I try to do 10 hours of intermittent fasting at least, sometimes 12, and then go into my meals. And it's hard to eat, to cram them in there. And I always have food left over, and I just throw it in for the next meal and try to eat it. But I got so much food to eat that day, and I need to eat it. So it's hard.
What do you want to talk about tonight? I cut that right off because if we don't, we'll just end up having another shit show discussion about nothing.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Well, we can talk about the 10 things to do, to start thinking about now for your garden.
That's a great idea. Yeah, and that was our plan for this week anyway, was to talk about that. It's January. It's coming towards the middle to end of January, and now's the time to start thinking about that garden. We are here at the homestead for sure. I've been looking at tons of stuff on YouTube where some of the people I follow that are gardeners, and they're on it. They got snow in their yard and they're on it. They're doing stuff now to prepare for spring. It's the time, man. And I mean, gardening.
Yeah, and I've gotten away from actually, hands-on stuff just because of I moved, and I just don't have the setup like I had before. But I'm starting to get back into it. I've made some contacts with some people that are in the industry still, and they're going to come on the show. I've got some PhD level people coming on, and some uh, back alley PhDs coming on in a few things for a few episodes. But I mean,
Right.
these people have been there and done it. They're running successful businesses in gardening.
Right. Exactly. Yes.
One of them is going to come on and talk about is how they, started homesteading and took that homestead and made it into a revenue stream.
That's what we're trying to do, and we don't know how. We're just starting. The last 2 years here in our garden, we're figuring out the garden, figuring out the soil, figuring out the compost, figuring out what grows and what doesn't, and what mistakes and all that. And we're putting all that information into what's coming up in spring because our goal is to make money from the garden, not just the bees and the homestead, but from the garden.
There's lessons learned that you have that people who are thinking about homesteading, it, they see a YouTuber out there that homesteads and see how easy it is, and usually maybe it's me, but most of there's some younger folks, and they're wearing less clothing out there in the snow than they should,
Yeah.
and they're glamorizing homestead, and as well as I do that it's hard.
We'll talk about that when we have our homesteading episodes, and I'll put the S at the end of that. But I will just preface, them by saying there are a lot of people, a lot of homesteaders that are on YouTube that totally glamorize the homesteading thing, and you need to look a little closer at some of them because you may be doing yourself an injustice by thinking that is the way it is, and it is not. Those people have money
Oh yeah, yeah,
and their job is making YouTube videos.
yeah.
In real life, you have to budget every single dollar. You have to say to yourself, do I need to buy chicken feed this week or do I need to buy something for the bees? Do I need to buy something for, the birds? Do I need to buy something for the garden? Because you can't buy it all at the same time. Tractor? Hell no. Tractor's not going to happen.
Yeah, it's a choice. I mean, you hit it right on the nose there. There's people out there who are
Yeah, absolutely.
retired millionaires.
They got 3 or 4 side by sides, and those side by sides are $15,000 $20,000 a piece.
Yeah, sports stars, wives are out there,
Yep.
and it's all glamorized. But yeah, like you said, it's another show. But getting back into what we want to talk about today is now's the time of year that you should be planning, and most people out there they do one garden a year. They do a summer garden, and it's just extra. It's just an extra food source for them. It's really not replacing anything. They're still going to go out and buy. 90% of the food from the grocery store. It's more of kind of like what I'm doing now. It's like, I like BLTs. I love the taste of a tomato that's grown homegrown. And there's some
Me too.
specific ones I like.
Mm.
And they taste better than what you get in the
Way
stores.
better, man. I got a couple of tomatoes. Rhonda picked them up just on the way home the other day from the store because we didn't have any. They don't taste anything like the ones that came out of the garden. Nothing. Not even close to the ones we took out of the garden.
Yeah. Yes, definitely. And that there's just a lot more nutrition in there. There's a lot more of, it just tastes better. It's just a better product. But, what percentage do I actually produce? Now, even, back when I was really into, the market garden scene, what was the percentage of food that I actually produced? It was very low. Even when I was, taking stuff to the farmer's market and had a backyard full of, and another garden in addition to that, producing a lot of stuff, I just really didn't produce a lot. Um,
Are you ever thinking about getting back into your family business of actually doing crops like fields or just gardening?
yeah, I would like to. It's one of those things where I've got land. I've got some plans out there. It's just I'm kind of moved away from the land. It's 30-minute drive one way, so it's an hour round trip, and it's just sell it, keep it.
If I was you, 30 minutes away, if I was you, I'd be putting bees on it right now and start getting them established. You don't need to be on your bees every day. You see your bees once every 1 to 2 weeks. You don't want to do more than that, you know?
We have an elementary school right next door, so there's a problem with that. So,
Not necessarily. Are there some kind of regulations in your area or?
well, there's not,
Oh, are you worried about the kids actually getting into the bees?
or the bees getting into the playground, kind of thing.
That would be a problem.
We've had problems in the past with just there's been within a couple miles of us, there's been beehives. Actually, within about a quarter mile, there was a couple hives, and we got some strays. It's been a problem in the past, but yeah, to answer your question, I'd like to. Just a matter of planning. I got a lot of other stuff going on right now.
You can't do a whole lot of shooting on that property either, can you?
I can't do any. And it's inside city limits. I mean, yeah, I could do it, but it wouldn't take long for somebody to come out there. So yeah, it's something I need to do, and it's as a prepper, or a preparedness person, I need to really dive into it. But I'm working at another location now to get more to grow, and starting to get back into it.
I know you've got the skills. That's why I was just wondering.
Yeah, I got the skills.
I mean, you told me at one time you were actually growing hatch peppers for a restaurant, right? For a head chef or something?
Yeah, it was Fresno peppers for the chef because he had a recipe for he had a little chicken shack kind of thing where he did chicken sandwiches, chicken wings, and he had this recipe and he used Fresno peppers, and he was importing them all from California, and is like, hey, his sous chef was asking me, hey, can you grow this stuff? And I was like, give me some seeds. So I was growing them. Matter of fact, I'm doing some hydroponic right now on the countertop, just to see if I can do it again. But yeah, at one time I had, man, it was over 260, I believe.
Wow.
At this
Wow.
time of year, I had them in my garage with a heater inside a grow tent.
Because you got to produce them earlier, a lot earlier.
Yeah, yeah. So I was going to put them in. Each plant was going in a 10-gallon tub in my backyard. I had, I think, 25 of them plus a bunch of grow. There's these grow bags that are 5 and 10 gallon, 50. You can get them up to 25 gallons. And so I used, there was 20 of the tubs, and then I had another 25 the grow bags. And I was doing different types of peppers and some tomatoes in them just for for the business and for going to I kind of got into a niche with it and with the farmers market, and so I was selling a lot of everybody was trying to take everything there to sell it, which is a technique, but I figured, okay, nobody's doing this, I'm going to do this, and so I became the pepper guy. I have more experience with peppers than tomatoes. Going back to the original thing here, there's 10 things that you need to be thinking about at this point. Whether you're a spring gardener and a summer gardener, which is awesome. You should be actually gardening, you can with the right techniques all 4 seasons. Or, I'm getting everything set up now for my summer garden. So there's 10 top there. I broke it down to 10 things you need to start thinking about right now and planning, for to get that garden going. So number one is you got to set some goals. You got to figure out, what I need, what do I want to grow this year? Okay, that's the very first thing. Am I using existing beds? Am I starting out from scratch? Am I expanding beds? What am I doing? So, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. You don't come in and with a plan, you don't know what it is. And I've done this. I mean, if anybody has failed, and learned from their mistakes, it's me. You can't just wake up one day on a nice day and you see it all the time. It's one of the first nice warm days you get, and you go to Home Depot and it's just full of people buying plants. Oh, I got 2 days of nice weather. I'm going to go out and plant some plants. Well, a lot of them end up dying because they didn't look at their frost calendars. So, one of the things you need to do is find out, when is your last frost? You know, the plants I want to plant, are they frost resistant, or do I need to wait to plant them after the frost? Am I planting seeds? Am I going to plant transplants? Am I going to start the transplants in my house on a countertop, or, in the garage, or in a spare room under lights? You know, you got to backwards plan your garden from that. So there's just a lot of things that need to be done, as far as,
So that's all part of goal setting?
yeah, goal setting. You need to say, okay, my garden, the last frost date is this. Okay, so I need a backwards plan from now until then, and do all the things to get that plant, that garden or that planting time, set. By rule, I used to have relatives that they swore by, you can't plant anything until after Easter. You can't plant anything until after Easter. And that's a good rule of thumb to go by. Some years you can plant before
General, yeah.
Easter. Yeah, some years you can plant before Easter and be fine. Other years, usually when I did it, it stuck me in the ass. So, by rule of thumb, at least in zone 7, 7A, 7B, wait till after Easter. Um, Not a hard, fast rule, but something to go by. So, if I use that as or I go and actually look up my last frost date, projected frost date, which is only an average of what it had, the time and date every year. So it's an average of time. It's not, oh, well, I'm fine. It's the last frost date is April 21st, so I can go out there the 22nd and put stuff in. I've been stuck in the ass with that too. So you just gotta, it's a gamble like anything else. I think
Yeah,
we
the
all
last
know
frost
that.
date for us is April 15th through April 10th through April 15th, and last year we got our last frost on April 20th. So
Yeah.
had we done the 10th or 11th or 12th, we would have been screwed.
Yeah. And then, okay, so what if I
Got to
do
watch
plant
that weather.
and the frost comes in? Well, there's things you can do, like throw blankets over it. Some people,
There's an old guy that I watch on YouTube, an old farmer, and when I mean farmer, I mean farmer. This guy's the real deal, and he's like in his 70s, and he's got a great big giant place someplace. I think it's in, I want to say Tennessee or maybe Oklahoma. But he was saying that when something like that happens to his crops and the frost comes in, they run out there early in the morning before the sun comes up. It can be light, but before the sun rises up over the horizon, and they spray them all down with water. And he
yes.
says that you will save them by getting the frost off the plants before the sun hits them.
Yeah, I was going to touch on that. Thanks for stealing my thunder. No,
Sorry.
no, but no, it's a good technique. I went out there and was doing that, and the girlfriend was like, "What are you doing? You're gonna kill them." And I was like, "Just she was throwing blankets over stuff, and I was spraying stuff with water. It defies logic, but it works. Now, as soon as I say that and somebody goes and does it, they're gonna be like, "Buddy, you said I could do this," and
Like that fucking buddy,
don't listen to Buddy. But yeah,
some farmer he is.
give it a try. Throw blankets on some, throw the water on the other and see what happens. But I guess the first thing you need to do is set your goals, and we'll move on to number 2 from here. But set goals and backwards plan. Find out what you want. What's your ultimate goal? I want the best rose garden or the best, which we're gonna do this year. We're gonna do a rose garden. I might put some on video and stuff.
Hmm.
Um, just I've never done a rose garden, and I've had rose bushes in the past, and they do well where I'm at. So we're gonna try it. So, but you figure out what you want, and then how am I gonna get there, and when am I gonna get there? So backwards plan. So
All right. Rein it in. Number two.
number two, you got to make plans. You got to put stuff on paper. If you put stuff on paper, kind of like we were talking about earlier with my regimented daily routine with the battle rhythm and stuff, you put stuff on paper, it's more likely to happen. So, go buy a pad, a couple dollars at, the office supply store, Walmart, wherever it may be, and graph out, what you want to plant. And depending on who you watch on YouTube, you can plant in rows or you can, guerrilla plant it. You can crowd stuff out. Um, you have to have space for everything, depending on whatever technique you use. Put it on paper and see what happens. I watched a lady recently on accident, but she was making a lot of sense. That she plants a lot of stuff in raised beds and containers, and she crowds it, and it defies logic for people like, oh, you got to, if you read the actual package of seeds, it says, okay, you got to plant this, 2-3 inches apart from the other plant, and it's got to be, there's got to be in rows or something like that, whatever it may be. She just sprinkles stuff in there. I believe they call it guerrilla planting, and she has a method to her madness. She's just not just throwing seeds in there, willy nilly. But the green leafy stuff are on the edge of her containers. She has the root plants next to the green leafy stuff, and then your taller, maybe tomatoes, peppers, your taller plants that climb in the center. And so it's kind of appealing to the eye as well, but also it's in, it produces well. Now
And
the other
there's lots of
thing,
different ways of doing it. That's not a hard set rule. There's tons of different ways of planting
no,
your garden.
and like you were saying earlier, you have trial and error. And one of the things she did talk about was companion planting, and that's something that you need to, when you're doing something like that, especially if you're crowding stuff out, you need to look at companion planting. Uh, there's certain plants that don't work well with others. There's certain plants that thrive when something else is next to it. For instance, planting onions, uh, or actually, my favorite thing is with my tomato plants, I'll plant some Italian basil with them. Those two work great together, and your tomatoes will take a different taste with the basil planted next to it. I also throw garlic or onions in with it as well along the outside. And, some plants put off extra nitrogen that other plants need. So, I don't want to get
Our
too far in the
basil
weeds.
exploded next to the tomato plants. It
Yeah,
was unbelievable how they grew.
I've had instances where my basil grew taller than the tomato plants. And so,
Wow.
hey, whatever. So maybe the, tomato plants are good for the basil plants. Who knows? But, figure out what's good with stuff like, and Jeremy touched on it as well about he learned a lesson, and you might have said it too, where you had some hot banana peppers. If you plant your banana peppers too close to your, jalapenos or your hotter peppers, you'll get those banana peppers to have a little heat to them as well. So you might want to spread those out,
That's
and
right.
that's
You're and the bees will do that. The honeybees are when they go out, and it's really quick. When the honeybees go out and forage for pollen, okay, and that's when they do their pollinating your plants. They go from plant to plant. One thing to remember about that is that honeybees, they only collect the same colored pollen at a time. So they'll go back and they'll get it all off their body. The other bees will take it off their body, then they'll head back out and they'll get more pollen. When they get like a whitish color, they'll only get the whitish color pollen. They get the yellow, brown, the green, the black, all different types of pollen out there. So your pepper plants all have the same color pollen. So they will pollinate all of your pepper plants if they're right near each other, and then you're going to start cross pollinating.
And that's a very good point. Nature's out there doing a lot of this stuff that needs to happen. I've heard of people going out and shaking certain plants.
Yeah, I heard about that too. Yeah, like a wind effect.
Well, in Oklahoma, we don't have to shake them because the damn wind blows so much. It's going to do it for us, and a lot of times we don't have to worry about the bees because the wind's going to do it for us with a lot of things. But the pollination thing, kind of getting off in the weeds, so to speak, with this. But yeah, the that's part of your planning as well. You want to watch where you plant stuff. Do I have nature working with me or against me, kind of thing, and put that into your plan. But the bees are so beneficial, and butterflies as well for your garden. So that's a good point. So
Hmm.
all right, I'm gonna dive into number three now. So you've got a plan, you put it on paper, you got some goals, and now what's next? Okay, so you should. I'm gonna say you should have already started getting those seed catalogs that we've talked about. And I bet you on your coffee table at your house, Keith, you've got a stack of them right now because I know I do.
They're about
And
a foot high.
yeah, so I'm getting all of these, seed catalogs, and I'm going through and saying, wow, I want to do this year. I
And
want
they're
to do this.
free. You just go
They're
online and get them.
Yeah, because they know they're gonna sell. And the, there's a lot of information in those. Yeah, they'll especially like Johnny Seeds and I think Baker Creek does a real good job about. They'll have little educational things in there. Uh, Especially if you go online, they have all kinds of classes you can take and stuff for sources. But now's the time where you start ordering seed and or going to the store and finding it. But with the seed catalogs, it's a wealth of information. A lot of those seeds, are heirloom seeds, which you can save the seed from the actual fruit of the plant for next year, and do it for years. You can keep those seeds stored properly. You can keep them for years and keep those things going for years and years and years. Now, some of the GMO stuff and the non heirloom stuff, you can't do that. You might get a couple years out of uh, planting out of them, and then the seeds are no good. So keep that in mind. But now's the time. You've got your plan together. Get those seeds. Get out there and figure out what you want. Start acquiring those seeds. If you are in an area that there's a lot of gardening going on or farming, they have seed swaps that, if you get on the right Facebook pages, they'll have a seed swap, at your local community center. A lot of farmers markets that, run from May until, Octoberish, and, like in my area. In the wintertime, they do a couple seed swaps. And it's a good idea. You got the farmers, the actual people selling at the farmers market will bring their seeds and either sell them or they'll swap them for other people. So
At the one of the sales we have here, it's not technically a farmer's market, but it's a market right in downtown where everybody sets up booths and stuff. Every single weekend. There was one that came by on one of the weekends, back of a truck type of thing. It's a farmer who does their own starts like we're doing here in the house. And they had their seedling starters already 12 inches high, ready to go. That was fantastic, man. You can go in there, you can get your peppers, your tomatoes, all this stuff at a month old already, a month or two old already, without having to actually do the seeding.
you know
Really good stuff, man. We produce a couple of great plants from them.
that's an excellent point. One year I would say half of the money I made on the farmers market was early in the season where I was selling plants. I was out there um, selling starts that were taller stands. They were greener. They just were more healthy than what you could buy at, of course, Lowe's and Home Depot. And
Oh yeah, way healthier. Yeah,
a lot of the tractors. Well, I'm not going to say track supply. The feed stores and stuff,
yeah. Feed stores. Yeah,
which they don't take care of their plants. So if you want a certain plant and like a Cherokee tomato is big here in Oklahoma, Cherokee purples, and their heirloom. I always try to find somebody growing them, on marketplace that, has a greenhouse in their backyard and they're doing the same thing with me because they're just healthier plants. They're better taken care of than in a greenhouse with a kid making minimum wage, and then they throw them on the back of a truck, and it's getting frozen in the back of a truck, and they send it to, you know, Lowe's and stick it out there, and it gets frosted and dies. You know what I mean?
Well, the stores like Lowe's and the feed stores, one thing that people don't know is that they buy their plants, all of their plants from a or more than one supplier. And here's the thing, here's the trick. They are guaranteed that at the end of the season, that farmer, whatever, they'll buy them back, the ones they don't sell or the ones that died. So they don't care. They have nothing to lose. They're like, yeah, give me all of them. I don't care where they come from. Throw 'em, put them out there.
Great point. And one of the things I do, and call me cheap, but Lowe's in my area, they're just notorious for killing plants. And so even when I had a landscaping company, I would go to Lowe's, and usually on Monday or Tuesday mornings, I would go and just stop in, on my way out to a job site and look and see what they got on their markdown rack. And so it's like a third of what they've written them off. So it's all profit for them. And
Right,
they're getting,
right.
so they got these racks out there that's, you might get a flat of, let's say, pansies. You might get a flat of pansies for $2, maybe $5. And it
Right.
normally would
75,
cost you.
80% off.
Yeah, and so, you throw a little Miracle Grow on them, water them a little bit, put them under. I used to put them under a lamp in a grow tent for a couple days. Throw some nitrogen on them, get them back to where they're growing, and then go out there and use them for customers. It was too easy. I mean, the success rate for those is really high. And then I guaranteed my work to where, if something died, and they just have to call me up and I'd replace it. So, you
Exactly.
know,
Right.
that's another technique you can use, man. If you're like me and kind of thrifty. I won't say I'm cheap, but I'm thrifty. Um, you look at things like that. You can learn how to revive those plants. It's like rescuing a dog in my mind. So okay, let's see. Let's go to number 4 now. You've got your seeds. You figure out what you want to buy. You get in the catalogs. You're going through everything and ordering your seeds. You're going to the mailbox every day looking for those seeds to come in. Now they're coming in. So, you've got that. You got the start of the battle started, right? Well, what other things can you start ordering at this point? Besides just seeds. Well, what about onion sets? What about potatoes? These are more cool. You can plant these in cooler atmospheres, and it takes longer for them to grow anyhow. So start getting your onion sets out. I just went to Tractor Supply earlier to buy some dog food, and they got the onion sets already in my area. They're selling them right now. So this weekend, I will definitely pick some up and put them in the ground because it's time to plant the onions. And there's potatoes out there that you can start planting now. Now they might not take off and do a lot until the ground gets to a certain temperature for their, at a
Well,
certain
these
temperature.
are root vegetables, and
Root,
they are
yes.
perfectly safe under the soil, just sitting down there a foot, 6 inches, a foot, whatever it is you're planting them, perfectly safe. And when the time comes when nature ends its frost and it starts warming up and the sun comes out, boom, they just pop right out of the dirt.
And again, man, you want like I like radishes. So when do you plant radishes? Well, in those plant books that we get, the catalogs, or at the store at the back of the seed, um, your back of your seeds will tell you when to plant them in what zone. If not, you can Google it. Google's a great, just a really awesome tool for you. But you know, now's the time to start doing a lot of that stuff, depending on your zone. A couple guys, that we know down in Florida, they can do all year around, do things.
Right, right.
People up in South
Yeah,
or
some of the
North Dakota,
folks in the
South
South,
Dakota,
like in in Florida and all over Florida, actually, and
Houston.
in California, it's another place where it's very temperate, and they can grow all kinds of stuff all year round.
So yeah, and part of your planning is know what zone you're in. If you don't know what zone you're in, you need to find out real quick because it's something that's very vital to you. It's as vital as that last frost date. You got to know your zone. So, but yeah, look at your seeds, your onion sets, and then what do I want in my garden, and when do I need to go out and grab stuff. If you're throwing a seed in the ground, that's maybe a lettuce. You can do some lettuces now, but what if you're doing something like corn? You can do some corn now, actually.
Yeah,
Um,
they don't have the onions or the potato starters out yet in my area. They'll
yeah,
they'll probably come out. I think probably like end of February is when they start loading up.
yeah, you'll see them within the month for sure.
Yep.
Um, But and a lot of times in stores are starting to get better at it when putting stuff out, at certain times. But a lot of your box stores terrible. But I digress. So now it's all about planning, okay, and it's all about backward planning. Um, Also, there's skipping ahead a little bit to 5 and 6. You need to, if you're going to start seeds, and this is kind of hard. There's some math involved in it, but and sometimes I have to take off my boots to count past 10. But I have to, if I'm starting seeds indoors, when's that frost date? When do I usually plant these? You know, how long is it going to take for the seed to germinate? How long is it going to take to get a stand? 2-inch stand for a pepper plant, and past the that last frost date, so I can take it outside and plant it in the ground. So, is it time now to do that? Well, I know it is for me because I've done it, and I've had success at this, and I've failed miserably at this. So learning from my mistakes, like we've talked about. But
Yep.
now's the time for a lot, at least in my area, for a lot of people, and I think you're probably doing it already. If you're going to do any growing inside with lamps, or the heat mats and the lamps and stuff like that, to start plants indoors, it's time now. In some cases you're behind the curve. So start looking at that, and you can get on YouTube, and a lot of good videos out there on it. But if I could give you any advice, if you're going to start any plants, under your counter, or on your counter under some countertop lamps, or in a spare room or whatever, you need a heat pad underneath those starts. You need good soil. I would add a little bit of vermicompost to it, a little bit of worm poop, and about, with your soil and your vermicompost, do about at least 70-30, soil to vermicompost, soil being the most at 70. And then water, every few days, and don't overwater, because then you're going to get bugs, and cause it's going to create a whole problem for you. Just wet the soil a little bit, don't soak it. And
Yeah.
then
We managed to grow a lot of algae, because we overwatered our seedling. And we still got seeds. We still got seedlings, but I was scraping algae off the top of the dirt like constantly.
yeah, and I was going to a conference for a week, and so I couldn't trust my daughters to get in there and water, you know, like I would. And I taught them how to do it, and I think they actually overwatered. I watered heavy before I left, overwatered, and they overwatered a little bit, and I came back, and I had over 200 and something plants just go down the go down the tubes. I mean, they were eaten up by bugs. S- I I blame myself for, I actually brought in, and there's something called overwintering. So I was going to overwinter my best uh, jalapeno plant just to try it, because I've never done it. And so I didn't do it right. And I brought in some bugs that thrived in a indoor environment that was, totally climate controlled, and with heat over the winter. And they just ate the shit out of all my, within a week. Um, the bugs totally stripped my plants where they're all dead, and I had to start from scratch. I had to actually go in and scrub the whole environment in there to kill all the eggs and stuff out of it, or it would happen again. So
That's
terrible.
that's bad. That's bad.
Yeah, but those are, learn from my mistakes, learn from Buddy's mistakes. So, uh, but now's the time to start your indoor starts. Research what you want, go out there and figure it out, do some backward planning, get the math done, and start them out. All right, so six, I would say, research your local nurseries. There's people out there that want to do fruit trees. They want to do pecan trees. They want to, this is the year I'm going to do some trees. I'm going to, start a small orchard or something. Well, am I going to Tractor Supply and buying one, or am I going to a local nursery out that, that's what I would do if I was going to buy it. Spend the extra money, go to a nursery to get a healthier plant or healthier tree. But now's the time to research, nurseries, research, who's selling stuff out there right now. And when are they, that because they have sales, they do grand openings, this season, you know, uh, sales around Mother's Day. There's always sales out there, Easter, things of this nature. So get out there and research, and just go, if you have the time, go talk to the actual growers, and they'll help you out. In a lot of instances, they're more than happy to help you out. So uh, just get educated on where your stuff's coming from. All right, so and we'll go to 7 now. You're ordering your garden structures, okay? This year I'm going to expand my raised beds, and I'm going to do those metal raised beds, and I'm going to do a 3x8 or 3x9, and I'm going to do three more. So, do you wait to order those or get them ordered now? Well, I would order them now and start getting them put up and start slowly putting, your dirt and start prepping those beds, because you're going to wake up one day and do like everybody does. It's a warm day out there. It's going to be warm all weekend. Great planting day. I'm going to go buy these raised beds, and I'm going to go get some dirt, and I'm going to have a whole truckload of shit and work my ass off on a Saturday afternoon and do all these things. And then I'm going to throw plants in there, and then your plant's going to die because of things, the reasons. Maybe they don't. My experience is, when you prep a bed correctly, with the compost and the other things that need to be involved, you do it slowly. If you want better success with your soil science and your soil, to get the things in the soils that live and thrive and make the soil more healthy, you do it over time. So uh, that's something you need to start, order your structures. You might build beds from with wood. You might, collect things in around your farm or from other people on marketplace to make beds out of. Get creative. I mean, I've seen tires. I've seen, feed buckets from farmers. I've seen people with very ornate beds. They spend multiple hundreds of dollars on to make a spectacle out of it and stuff. But take your time and do it right. Get that, build the structure and put the soil in. So,
And decide if you really even need a structure. There are a lot of people out there that do mounding, like mounds, row crops, and things like that. For instance, we did our corn, and in between we did beans around the corn, and in front we did the flowers. What are they called again? Is it
zinnias.
the ones that keep the bugs and stuff away? Uh,
Oh, marigolds.
Marigolds. We did all that around the outside, and we did all of it just in rows. Like, in other words, mounded up rows, long mounded up rows, and every bit of it did awesome. We didn't even need a bed structure around it. Now, one thing I did do is, once I planned out that whole section, I did take I've got a gas powered auger, that digs holes,
Yeah.
and I went through and I dug down like a foot, every single foot, a foot deep, so that I was able to mix up all that dirt and throw in some compost and do all that. Then I went back through, raked it all up, made my rows, mounded them up about 3 or 4 inches high, and planted the seeds right in top of the mounds. And it really did wonderful. Didn't even need to put wooden beds around it.
Yeah. And it's the gardener's choice. There's people that have to have a linear type garden with rows, and everything's got to have its own row in its own place, and things like that. And there's other people that only have so much room, and they just start throwing seeds in it and grill a garden and do the things. Um, People who like containers, and they're all, dress right dress, and there's, just, you walk into a garden, their garden and it looks like
Feel like
something
a
out of a
museum.
magazine. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
And you know, I'll have to tell on my girlfriend, she's like that. She wants something that's, you know, pleasable to the eye. So when she goes on her back porch, she sees it and it's something, you know, pleasant. And which is not me. I'm just throwing shit, you know, left and right. But
Rhonda and I are the same, but we're also opposite. We both are the same in the way that we love a rustic garden, stuff just really just natural and nature and stuff. Like we have to actually duck under and walk under plants to get to other plants, things like that. But we're different in the sense that she is 100% chaos gardening and I'm 100% organized. I like my plants exactly 8 inches apart, whatever it's supposed to be, and organized into squares. She loves stuff just mixed all over the place, and there's beauty in that. There's beauty in that chaos. That it's something to see like a nice row of corn, but then all of a sudden everywhere else there's all these other things just mixed in. Like chaos, basically.
yeah. And who's right? You know, nobody. You know,
Nobody.
that at the
Mm-mm.
end of the day, it's, you know, you can get growth out of both. It's just your choice. To me, I don't like the structure. I like, you know, just to throw stuff in there and everything's an experiment for me. It's weird, you know. Um,
I
even
this may sound hippie-ish or whatever, but I really honestly believe this that when you walk into your space, your garden space, how it makes you feel is very important to how your productivity is going to come out. If you
yeah,
hate your garden, it will not produce.
exactly, exactly. So you know, it's a dealer's, you know, choice when it comes to your garden and the way it looks. There's, you know, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what, you know, the neighbors think about my garden. To me, you know, some people it matters, you know, 100% what the neighbors think. It's how I feel. I'm like that too. So I could care less. I want a functional garden that works, that produces food. I'd rather see a tomato that's juicy and huge and brag about it that I grew it than uh, you know, a container that, you know, is all the same color
Exactly.
and in a perfect row that produces a shit tomato. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
That's me.
We had grass and weeds growing between our wooden beds, and the wooden beds was just all the extra garbage trash wood I was taking off of logs on the mill that was from trees that I was
Yeah.
building projects with. I didn't go out and use like, actual dimensional lumber from the store to build beds. No, we use whatever we could. And here's the thing. You look online, you see people putting stone or, gravel and things like that between their beds. You wanna kneel on that? I don't. I wanna kneel on some nice soft grass.
Yeah. 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 It
Because if you're a gardener, gardeners do it on their knees. You're doing it on your knees. I don't care if you have beds or not. You're not standing up all day.
Now that's a t-shirt slogan for Top Spunker right there. Gardeners do it on their knees. I like it.
Exactly.
All right, we're gonna have to sell some t-shirts now. All
Moving to
right.
number 8.
All right, 8. So, something that people that garden in the ground, something that will be helpful for them. This is a time of year if you have a tarp, you know, and I've talked about this before. It's time to put a tarp down to kind of smother out the weeds. Also, a tarp will protect the soil. If you got bare soil out there blowing in the wind right now, you're kind of wrong. As far as you're killing your soil, you're not doing it any help. Um, by covering it, you're covering up, keeping the wind erosion away. You're actually helping, you know, worms and other, you know, of the little critters that do the things you want to do in your garden in the soil to do their thing. So cover your gardens up. You know, this is time of year especially. Keep, you know, you don't necessarily if it's going to snow, you know, you could uncover it for a little while because you want that moisture and stuff, but you're going to still get moisture underneath a nice tarp. So cover them up and put your this is a time of year you want to put some compost on your garden. You know, if you're whether you're doing it in rows or you're raised beds or containers, whatever you're doing, buy a deal of compost and just top dress it. Just don't spend a lot of time. If you want to work it into the soil, do it now. It's going to help create a better environment when spring comes because you're introducing that compost to the soil now. You're giving it time like if it's manure-based compost, you're giving that manure time to age, because a lot of times the compost from the compost factory is it's green manure. It's only been there a couple weeks. They mix it in there, and then you go buy a bag of it that comes straight off the truck on a Sunday afternoon or Saturday afternoon. Take it and put it in your garden. Throw some seeds down and wonder why your seeds aren't growing or your plant.
It's hot. It's chemically hot.
It's too hot with
Yeah.
nitrogen,
Hmm.
and when you get down to it, and I've known people who grow, commercially, that have ruined their whole start of their season. I mean, they were like, "What do we do now?" Because they got too hot of compost, and they didn't test it before they put it in, and it killed all their plants. They're like, "What the hell? What did I do wrong?" And they have the extension agents come out and go, "Well, compost is rated at this on nitrogen, which is basically burning the shit out of your plants." Well, what do I
Hmm.
do now? Replant? You
Yeah,
know?
and we're trying something. We're trying something a little bit experimental right now. Whereas we have a lot of our garden is covered in straw. We got straw down
Yeah.
for as opposed to tarps. We were saving some of our tarps, and then we have most of our beds where our tomatoes and our peppers were. Those were cut at the stem at the soil line, so that everything under it, all the root systems and everything is turning to compost itself because there's a whole ecosystem inside that dirt. And we're not experts, but we left it all of that area open and we opened the gates. So now all of our chickens and our guineas and our turkeys are in there and they're digging through that and they're mixing it up and they're pooping in it, which is
Oh
nitrogen.
yeah.
They're doing all this stuff. They're making it healthy. Now, are they eating some bugs? Yes. And are they eating some worms? Probably yes too. But they're aerating it. They're moving it around and it looks really nice.
Yeah, you're doing the right things. You got to let nature take its course, and people, can't mess with Mother Nature, and she will definitely. You're doing the right things,
We
definitely.
would love to keep the chickens in there, while we're growing, but they'll eat the plants, so that we can't
Yeah,
have.
yeah, that's a lesson I've learned. I spent a couple $100 on some plants, some starts, and didn't put the fence around it. Came back the next day, and yeah, the chickens were just smiling, fat and happy over there, laughing.
And it's not even the money, dude, it's the time. You put in
Yes,
you put in you put in a month or more just in trying to get those things up to 6 inches, so then you harden them off for a few weeks out in the sun before you put them out there. You finally plant them, you got your mulch all around them, everything looks beautiful. The next day you come out and they're eaten down to like a peg.
yeah. All I could think about was fried chicken. I mean, from that point on,
Well, I'll be
it,
I'll be hunting squirrels this year because squirrels did a lot of damage to our corn and our
yeah,
sunflowers, a lot of stuff.
yeah. We could do a whole episode on critters and
We
how to keep
will.
them out of your garden. I actually had a class on it, a 2-day class on it. Through the mitigation part of it, and it was pretty cool. You know,
Nice.
but anyhow, so
So what
9.
is number 8?
Well, eight is order your garden covers. If you tarps,
Gotcha. Okay.
maybe it's straw, maybe it's whatever. But cover the garden, and keep it, if it's an open garden, if it's an open you know traditional plant in the ground, garden that I do the rows and stuff like that. I guess a traditional garden. Go ahead and cover it up. You'll be surprised at the difference that it makes with covering it up about this time of year. Uh, and then 9 was put the compost on it. Go out there, even in your containers, throw some compost now. Later on, get some more compost. I like to buy compost and stack it in the shop or stack it in the barn, and maybe even open it up a little bit and just let it breathe. It usually has a tear in the bag by the time I get it back, anyways. But I want to age that compost because I don't trust it. You know what I mean? I don't trust it, and we've got just had this conversation. But so I'll buy compost, a few bags at a time, and just always put some back. I really love the vermicompost, and I'll buy a big bag of it if I don't produce my own, and then just keep it because that stuff is gold to me. I love it.
My worms have been working hard. I've been feeding them all for the past months. They're doing great out there. They're in my shop, and I've got them covered up with some of that camouflage netting.
Yeah, the best thing you can do with that is just, as they produce it, take it out and throw it in a different part of your garden, somewhere, especially over the wintertime. Now the chickens will love that because you're gonna get some little worms in there and some things. But Yeah, and if you're using worms out there, if you've listened to us or you're doing it anyways, man, come on and speak pipe and let us know.
Yeah, or come on the show.
Come on the show.
Yeah, exactly. Number 10.
Number 10, just go do the things. I mean, start your plan right now. Take some time and put that whole plan in action. If you're totally confused, hit us up, instant messages, hit us up on Facebook. Let us know. We're there to guide you. I've done some consulting for gardening a little bit with some, just people, and nothing crazy, but I've done some garden consulting and got a little experience in with it. And let's help you out. Our goal is to educate people and make everybody successful. We're not in here to, set people up for failure. You're going to have some wins, you're going to have some losses. We want to hear the wins and losses, help you out to better your success, and hopefully one day that it's going to really pay off for you.
My prepper brothers and sisters, there you have it. 10 things we should be doing right now to prepare for the best growing season ever. Listen, don't overcomplicate this. Run down to your local nursery, and yes, Walmart counts. That's where we get our seed starting mix and our potting soil and 72 cell tray kits for $7 each. You can pick up a few packets of seeds while you're at it. If you're a first-timer rookie gardener, this is a great place to start. You'll have tomatoes, peppers, and lettuces, potatoes, cucumbers, onions, and herbs starting to pop up before you get your summer tan. But you gotta start now. Stay prepped, stay happy. Thanks for listening, and good night.